Hello, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Wendy.
Welcome
Welcome
to
to
Brown
Brown Space.
Space. This is a safe space where we talk about the hard topic of racism.
And build empathy through the healing power of conversation.
Thank you for joining us.
Wow. So, Jocelyn,
Wendy.
what was one of the biggest challenges that you encountered with regards to skin color when you first came to the United States?
uh, like we talked about when we had this conversation before. For me, it was the realization that I was black. You know, uh, like, like I was explaining to you, like when in my country, everyone's black, more or less. We have some biracial kids and some white kids, but these are few and far between. So everyone's black, and you know you're a black person, but it's not a thought you have on the daily, right? And so for me, coming here, it was the realization, oh my God, you're black and you're an other, not just black, but black from Africa. Like, you got to be thinking about yourself and how you portray yourself because people see you differently.
Mm.
And I really had to grapple with that, right? And with the identity of being a black person, but also being a black person who is from Africa, which has its own connotations of poverty and and all of that comes with that. But then there's also the blackness where I've always been a very outspoken person, and I had to learn the concept of the loud black woman, which was terrifying for me because at a certain point I became terrified of giving my point of view because I didn't want to appear loud, but I was just giving my point of view. But because I was black while doing it, it I became a loud black woman, and I really had to reconcile with all of that. And that for me truly was the hardest thing that I had to tackle while being in this country. I mean, I am still tackling it on a daily basis. Well, not on a daily basis, not as often now, but every now and then something happens or I see something and I have to grapple with my identity. And I'm constantly doing that. I think which is part of why I really like writing poetry because it helps me to grapple with that identity, to write my thoughts down and have the opportunity to come back and refine those thoughts over and over and over 6 7 times until I feel like this is what I was feeling at this point in time, and this is how I'm feeling now about my identity, and it's ever growing. So that was the biggest thing that I had to grapple with in coming to this country, which is a lovely country on a good day.
So many thoughts running through my mind. I, you know, for me, a lot of my safe places or safe spaces that I congregate with and my inner uh, group and my tribe of people, it's very multicultural and very mixed, and sometimes, more people who are not of color.
Mm.
Hmm.
And it's a safe space for me because they've taken the time to get to know me and vice versa,
Mhm.
right? But then we have this
Hmm.
world that we live in,
Mm.
that when we are not congregating together, you know, I wonder about, maybe a girlfriend, for instance, who works 9 to 5 regularly, corporately,
Mhm.
what her realities are. Is she living in that this is how society says I ought to be, but this is not who I am,
Mhm.
kind of thing? Or is she or he like this across the board because
Hmm.
that's what I work for. I can't, I don't know how to be this person over here and this person over here.
Mhm.
This is it, you know? How can you speak to that whole being what society expects versus who you really are and how you navigate that?
I think for me, it was like you said, it's hard. It was difficult. Like I was constantly, having to check myself and like which group of people am I talking to? Oh, okay, this is how I need to behave with this group of people. I had to constantly do that, and it was at the time I didn't realize how much of a struggle and a burden it was to have to do that. It just felt like this is what you need to do to survive in this country, and again, like I said, poetry. I was glad that I took this one poetry class and it changed my perspective because I got to really um, it's it's not often that you take time to just sit down and think about yourself or about your experiences. Like you're busy going through the world and doing things, right?
Mhm.
But because I had to write poetry, I had to take the time to think, right? What do I know?
Hmm.
And because I was writing what I know, I had to grapple with my identity and how I was presenting myself and who I really was
Mhm.
or who I wanted to be. Because again, as a person, you can change and grow and grow and grow and decide who this that you want to end up being. And so for me, that was my saving grace
Mhm.
poetry, having to write and to figure out who I was and why I was behaving the way I was behaving with certain groups of people was that, you know, to fit in? Did I need to fit in with those people? Was it necessary? Who was I as a person?
Mhm.
And for me, really, it was that introspection that saved me in terms of continuously thinking about it. And now, even when I'm not writing, I still have thoughts. Like if I watch a show or something's happening, and I see something, it'll trigger a thought in me like, oh my gosh, why was that uncomfortable for you? Or why did you love that so much? Like who are you right now? Why is this thing good for you? Or why are you
Mhm.
uncomfortable about it? And so I love that process of introspection. I think that it's super important as people to find the time
Yeah.
for introspection, to think about ourselves and
Mhm.
who we are and where we want to go and what we want to do. And which is why I'm intrigued by what you're doing, your workshop, because I think that's super important, super necessary to be able to figure out that person. Because then, when you know who you are, or at the very least, you know who you want to be, and you're working towards that, it's
Yeah.
easier to navigate society,
Yeah.
right? Because you're more comfortable in your skin.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Let's flip that script. Wendy, you know, how are you? How are you? How are you being? And who are you becoming in your different spaces?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to answer your question exactly, at least not at the beginning, because I just have to respond. It's probably all the same. It's all connected. Because Jocelyn, I'm listening to you talk about, having to navigate different groups of people and oh, I have to be this person with these people and this person with these people and I was sitting here thinking, well, that kind of is describing my entire life. But then I realized that the reason it was is because of dysfunction. It's not because that's the way it is and should be in a healthy landscape of
Hmm.
humanity. It's a dysfunctional landscape of humanity. So if you're used to being a chameleon, it's probably because you were raised by somebody who didn't have a sense of who they were. And so they were constantly changing to survive and deal with whatever trauma they hadn't dealt with. And then you bring that into your adult relationships and your adult life, and you're constantly, this is who I am at work, this is who I am at church, this is who I am at the grocery store, this is who I am on stage, this is who I am when I teach. It's exhausting.
Yes,
And I
yes.
forgot because I've been unpacking all of that dysfunction and overcoming it and healing it and dropping that baggage because I can, because it's just familial, like generational trauma junk, right? It doesn't have anything to do with skin color. It's
Mm.
just family stuff. Okay. So I can drop that and I can figure out who I am. And then what happened this year was there was a person who came into my sphere who disrupted it, and I instantly started acting like walking on eggshells around them. And I started acting in that old chameleon dysfunctional way, and I realized this is not a person who can be in your life, because if you are authentic, when I caught myself and I started to act more authentically, there was this, and I was like, bye-bye.
Mm.
But again, I could do that. So I'm listening to you talk about this and I'm thinking, if we compared our society to a family, it would be utterly dysfunctional,
Yeah.
because you cannot walk away from your skin color. And the people are treating you or expecting from you a certain behavior and stereotypes and cookie cutters based on something that, you know, nobody has a choice in, skin color. It's not like it identifies you internally. It's only your
Right.
packaging. And if we're creating all of this, it is the ultimate of dysfunction. And I'm just like, okay, now ooh, I'm getting all riled up. So I don't think I answered your question, but I had to get that out. That I was just like, what?
You absolutely did answer the question, right? Because you're becoming all the time, right?
That's
And
true.
sometimes we all fall short, yeah, but you're able to catch yourself quicker
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you're confident about who you are, not who everybody is expecting you to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I can, but I have the privilege of never having to worry about sundown because of what I look like.
Mm.
I have the privilege of traveling anywhere I want without worrying about what's going to happen to me. Aside from violence towards women, um, but even then, it's just not the same. I'm not going to be murdered because I'm a woman.
Or be incarcerated because you're a black man, for no good reason.
No, but like being a woman doesn't mean I will automatically be suspect. It doesn't mean I'll be
Right.
thrown in jail. It doesn't mean somebody's going to come after me and lynch me.
Right.
So, you know, yeah, wow. It's just another another
Yeah.
level of understanding and empathy.
You've been watching Brown Space with Sharon and Wendy.
It's been so great talking and sharing here today. We look forward to your comments below, or you can email us at brownspace2020@gmail.com.
Remember, you are the light that gives light to the world.